Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
The trash bags felt heavier than usual as I dragged them down the driveway, my sneakers squelching against the wet pavement. Wednesday nights in suburbia, glamorous stuff. The rain had stopped, but everything still glistened under the streetlights like some discount movie set. I'm Seth Morrison, 38, IT consultant, and apparently the kind of guy who gets excited about fixing network issues and organizing cable management systems. Average, some might say. That's when I heard her voice drifting from our SUV parked in the driveway. Sabrina was on the phone, engine running, probably warming up the car for her evening real estate showing. I wouldn't have paid attention except she mentioned my name. "Oh, Pamela, you have no idea," she laughed, that crystalline sound that used to make my heart skip. "I married down, way down. Seth's mediocre at work, mediocre around the house. And trust me, he's mediocre in everything else too, if you know what I mean." I froze, trash bags dangling from my hands like dead weights. The oil stain I'd been meaning to clean for months suddenly seemed fascinating. "The mortgage will be paid off in 18 months, Sabrina continued. "After that, I'm upgrading. James always said he'd wait for me, and honestly, after 6 years of this suburban nightmare, I'm ready for something better." Pamela's laughter echoed through the phone speaker. "You're terrible. But James is definitely an upgrade. Finance executive, that downtown condo, and those shoulders." "Exactly. Seth thinks we're this happy couple. But I've been planning my exit strategy for 2 years. Poor guy has no clue." I stood there in my own driveway, feeling like an intruder in my own life. The woman I'd shared a bed with for 8 years was casually dismantling our marriage while discussing her lover like he was a stock portfolio. The worst part? She sounded bored, like I was some tedious maintenance task she'd been putting off. I dropped the trash bags and walked back inside, my mind racing. Dinner was waiting. Leftover pasta, nothing fancy. Sabrina came in 5 minutes later, shaking raindrops from her coat. "How was your day, honey?" she asked, settling across from me at our kitchen table. Same routine, same fake smile. "Just the usual," I said, twirling pasta around my fork. "You know, being average." She didn't even flinch. "Don't sell yourself short. You're reliable." Reliable. Like a Honda Civic or a checking account. I wanted to laugh, but something cold and calculating was already forming in my chest. Not anger, something sharper, more focused. "I was thinking," Sabrina continued, "maybe we should spice things up. Try something new." "New how?" She leaned forward, her realtor smile in full effect. "What would you say to an open relationship? We're both adults. We could explore other connections while maintaining our partnership." Partnership? Not marriage, not love. Partnership. Like we were co-managing a small business. I set down my fork and looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time in months. The perfectly styled blonde hair. The designer clothes she bought with commissions from selling houses to people who actually loved each other. When had she become a stranger? "That's quite a suggestion," I said. "I think it could be liberating for both of us. No more pretending, no more limitations, no more pretending." The irony was delicious. I stood up, grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. "You know what, Sabrina? I think you're absolutely right." "Really?" She looked genuinely surprised. "Where are you going?" "To start exploring those other connections. Thanks for the permission." I walked out, leaving her sitting at our table with her mouth hanging open. My phone buzzed before I even reached the sidewalk. A text from Tasha, Sabrina's supposed best friend. "So, heard the news. Dinner tonight. I think we should talk." I smiled for the first time all evening. Game on. Dennis poured me another beer and shook his head. "She actually said that about upgrading?" Word for word. I was crashing at his apartment above his bar, a cramped but comfortable space that smelled like hops and honest work. Dennis had been my best friend since college, the kind of guy who'd give you his last $20 and never mention it again. "So, what's the plan?" "Please tell me there's a plan." "Oh, there's a plan." I pulled out my phone and showed him Tasha's text. "Dinner tomorrow night. She wants to talk about Sabrina's new arrangement." Tasha's been covering for her this whole time? Has to be. They tell each other everything. I leaned back in the worn leather chair. But here's the thing about gossips. They can't help themselves, especially when they think they're on the winning side. Dennis grinned. You're going to record it. Just my phone in my jacket pocket. Nothing fancy, nothing illegal. Just two friends having dinner and conversation. The next evening, I met Tasha at Romano's, a mid-scale Italian place where the lighting was dim and the wine flowed freely. She'd dressed up, black dress, heels, the works. Clearly, she thought this was some kind of seduction scene. Seth, I have to say, you're taking this remarkably well, she said after we'd ordered. Most men would be devastated. Maybe I'm not most men. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Between us, I think Sabrina's been planning this for a while. She's been seeing James for almost 2 years. James from her college days? The same. He's doing really well now. Finance executive, makes 3 times what you do. No offense. None taken. Tell me more about their arrangement. Tasha needed no encouragement. The wine loosened her tongue, and soon she was spilling details like a broken faucet. Secret bank accounts, weekend trips disguised as work conferences, even a key to James's downtown condo. She's been moving money gradually, Tasha continued. Small amounts, nothing you'd notice. She learned that trick from her divorce clients. Smart woman. The smartest. She figured if you ever caught on, she'd already have her exit strategy in place. James has been pushing her to leave you for months, but she wanted to wait until the mortgage was paid off. I nodded sympathetically, letting her talk. My phone, nestled in my jacket pocket, captured every word. Don't take this the wrong way, Tasha said, reaching across to touch my hand. But you deserve better. Sabrina's become cold, calculating. She talks about you like you're some kind of burden. How so? Last week she actually said she was embarrassed to introduce you at the Hendersons' party. Said you looked like every other suburban husband, boring and forgettable. The recording was gold, but I wanted more. What about James? What's he like? Arrogant, entitled. He calls you the placeholder when they're together. Like you're just keeping Sabrina's bed warm until he's ready to claim her. The placeholder. I filed that away for later use. Tasha, I said, leaning forward, with what I hoped looked like vulnerable sincerity, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Anything. Do you have any proof? Photos, messages, anything? Because if I'm going to move forward with my life, I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with. She hesitated for exactly 3 seconds before pulling out her phone. I probably shouldn't show you this, but the photos were devastating. Sabrina and James at restaurants I couldn't afford, holding hands across candlelit tables. Sabrina wearing jewelry I'd never seen, laughing at James's jokes with genuine warmth she hadn't shown me in years. The final photo showed them entering his condo building, his arm around her waist, both looking like they owned the world. There are more, Tasha said quietly. Videos, too. She sent them to me thinking I'd find them romantic. Can you send them to me? Seth, I don't know. Please, I need to see what I'm really up against. She sent them. All of them, including a particularly revealing video of Sabrina and James in his condo, discussing their future together while casually mocking my obliviousness. Thank you, I said, meaning it. This helps more than you know. What are you going to do? I smiled. The same expression I used when solving particularly complex IT problems. I'm going to give them exactly what they want. The neighborhood barbecue was Sabrina's idea. She wanted to show off our new arrangement to the suburban gossip network, probably hoping to control the narrative before word spread naturally. What she didn't know was that I'd spent the past week preparing for this exact moment. You seem different, said Celeste. The woman I'd met at Dennis's bar 3 nights earlier. She was sharp, independent, and refreshingly direct. Everything Sabrina used to be before she became obsessed with status and appearances. Different how? More confident, like you've figured something out. We were standing near the Hendersons' pool, watching our neighbors navigate the social minefield of suburban politics. Sabrina was across the patio, holding court with her usual crowd, playing the role of the liberated wife, exploring new horizons. I have figured something out, I said. Sometimes the best way to handle a problem is to let it solve itself. That's when I pulled out my phone and opened the airdrop function. The video compilation I'd created was a masterpiece of editing. Tasha's recordings, the restaurant photos, and the crown jewel, Sabrina and James's private conversation about their plans for my future. What are you doing? Celeste asked. Social networking. I selected everyone and hit send. Within seconds, phones around the patio started buzzing with incoming files. The first person to open it was Mrs. Patterson from 2 houses down. Her shocked gasp carried across the entire gathering. Oh my God, she whispered to her husband. Is that Sabrina? The video began with Sabrina's voice, crystal clear. Seth's so clueless. He actually thinks we're happy. Meanwhile, James and I are planning our real future together. Conversation stopped. Everyone was staring at their phones, watching my wife and her lover dissect our marriage like a failed business venture. The audio continued, capturing James calling me the placeholder, and Sabrina laughing about my suburban mediocrity. Sabrina noticed the sudden quiet and looked around, confused. Then she saw her neighbor's expression and the phone in her hand. What's going on? Sabrina asked, but her voice had lost its confident edge. Tom Henderson, our host, cleared his throat awkwardly. Sabrina, I think you need to see this. He showed her his phone. I watched her face transform from confusion to recognition to pure panic as she realized what everyone was watching. Where did this come from? She demanded, her voice rising. This is private. This is illegal. Actually, I said, stepping forward, it's not. These were freely given to me by a mutual friend. No hacking, no breaking and entering, just good old-fashioned sharing. She spun around to face me, her carefully maintained composure cracking. You recorded me? I didn't record anything. I just compiled what was already recorded and shared with me. The same way you've been sharing your opinions about our marriage with everyone except me. The crowd was watching like this was premium cable television. Phones were out, undoubtedly recording this confrontation for later distribution. You had no right. I had every right. You declared an open relationship, remember? Well, this is me being open. About everything. James chose that moment to arrive, fashionably late and completely unaware of the situation. He walked up to Sabrina with his usual arrogant swagger, probably expecting to play the role of her sophisticated new boyfriend. Sorry I'm late, beautiful. Traffic was... He stopped mid-sentence when he noticed everyone staring at him. James, I said pleasantly. Perfect timing. Everyone was just getting to know you better. Mrs. Patterson held up her phone. Is this you calling Seth the placeholder? James went pale. His finance executive confidence evaporated as he realized his private comments were now public entertainment. This is harassment, Sabrina hissed at me. I'll sue you for invasion of privacy. With what money? I asked. Oh, that's right. You've been moving our joint assets to secret accounts. That's also in the recording, by the way, along with your timeline for leaving me after the mortgage is paid off. The neighbors exchanged glances. Nothing traveled faster in suburbia than a scandal, and this was premium material. We're leaving, Sabrina announced, grabbing James's arm. Good idea, I agreed. Though you might want to avoid Romano's restaurant. I think half the people here have eaten there, and after seeing you two together in those photos, well, awkward. They fled, leaving me standing in the Hendersons' backyard with 30 neighbors who now knew exactly what kind of woman they'd been socializing with for the past 5 years. Seth, Tom Henderson said quietly, I'm sorry, man. We had no idea. Don't be sorry, I replied. Sometimes the truth is exactly what everyone needs to hear. Celeste appeared at my elbow. That was either the most brilliant thing I've ever seen or the most vindictive. Why can't it be both? She laughed, a genuine sound that reminded me what authentic attraction felt like. Fair point. Buy me dinner and tell me how you planned all this? I know just the place. But not Romano's. The next morning, I implemented Phase 2. Dennis had helped me understand the legal requirements for asset protection. and my lawyer confirmed that Sabrina's secret transfers could actually work in my favor during divorce proceedings. She's been systematically moving marital assets without your knowledge or consent, Attorney Williams explained over coffee. That's not just grounds for divorce, it's grounds for you to claim the majority of remaining assets as compensation. What about the house? Joint ownership. But if you can prove she was planning to abandon the marriage while fraudulently transferring assets, the court will likely award it to you. I signed the papers that afternoon. Asset freeze, divorce filing, and a restraining order preventing any further transfers from our joint accounts. Sabrina would discover her financial maneuvering had backfired spectacularly. But I wasn't done with James. I found him at his usual gym, the upscale place downtown where finance executives went to network while pretending to exercise. He was on the
Second Instagram, 47 posts, all of her. You built her a shrine. You posted her on my birthday.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
treadmill, probably working off the stress of yesterday's public humiliation. James, I said, stepping onto the machine next to his. He nearly stumbled. What are you doing here? Exercising my rights as a gym member. I joined this morning. Great facilities. Look, about yesterday, about the past 2 years, about calling me the placeholder. I kept my voice conversational, but I could see him sweating more than the workout warranted. I wanted to thank you. Thank me? For showing me what my wife really thought of me, and for being exactly the kind of man she deserves. I stopped my treadmill and faced him directly. Here's what's going to happen, James. You're going to stay away from Sabrina, you're going to stay away from me, and you're going to hope I don't decide to share those recordings with your employer. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you. I'm explaining consequences. I leaned closer. Your company has a morality clause in their executive contracts. I checked. Something about maintaining professional standards and avoiding public scandals that might reflect poorly on the firm. His face went white. You wouldn't. Try me. Oh, and James, next time you want to call someone mediocre, make sure they're not the kind of person who documents everything. I left him standing there, probably calculating how much his arrogance had just cost him. That evening, I met Celeste for dinner at a small bistro across town. She'd been texting me throughout the day, checking in with a mixture of concern and curiosity that I found refreshing. So, she said over wine, are you going to tell me what you did to James today, or do I have to guess? What makes you think I did anything? Because you have that same expression you had right before the barbecue incident, like you've just solved a particularly satisfying puzzle. I told her about the gym confrontation, the legal maneuvers, and my growing plan to ensure that Sabrina and James faced real consequences for their betrayal. Aren't you worried about going too far? She asked. They had 2 years to come clean, 2 years to treat me with basic human decency. Instead, they chose to mock me behind my back while planning to discard me like garbage. I took a sip of wine. I'm just making sure the consequences match the choices. And what about us? Where do I fit in this revenge plot? You don't, I said honestly. You're something entirely separate. Something real. She smiled. Good answer. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, I found a photo of my car with all 4 tires slashed, parked outside the restaurant. Looks like Sabrina's not taking the divorce papers well, Celeste observed, reading over my shoulder. Actually, I said, forwarding the photo to my lawyer and the police. This just made things much easier. How? Property destruction, harassment, probably violating the restraining order I filed this morning. I smiled. She's building my case for me. Within an hour, 2 police officers were taking my statement, while a tow truck loaded my vandalized car. The security cameras at the restaurant had captured everything, including clear footage of Sabrina keying the paint and slashing the tires while screaming obscenities. Domestic dispute? The older officer asked. Divorce proceedings. She's not handling it well. We'll need to bring her in for questioning. Property destruction, violation of a restraining order. She's looking at serious charges. Officer, I said, I just want this resolved peacefully. But I also want it documented. Understood. We'll make sure everything's on record. As the police car drove away, Celeste shook her head. She really doesn't understand what she's dealing with, does she? Sabrina's always believed that being charming and attractive would get her out of any situation. She's about to learn that consequences don't care about your smile. And James? I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from James's number in the past hour. James is starting to realize that sleeping with another man's wife might have been a career-limiting move. James was waiting in the parking lot when I left work the next day. He looked like he hadn't slept, his usual polished appearance replaced by wrinkled clothes and desperate eyes. "We need to talk," he said, stepping out of his car. "Do we? Because I thought I was pretty clear yesterday." "Please, just 5 minutes?" I checked my watch. "You have 3. My boss called me in this morning. Someone sent the recordings to our HR department." "That's unfortunate. Did you explain that you were just exercising your right to an open relationship?" "This isn't funny, Seth. I could lose my job, and I lost my marriage." Funny how consequences work. He ran his hands through his hair, the gesture destroying what was left of his executive styling. "What do you want?" "Money, I can pay you." "I don't want your money, James. I want you to understand something." I stepped closer, close enough to see the fear in his eyes. "You called me mediocre. You called me a placeholder. You and Sabrina spent 2 years laughing at my expense, planning your future while I paid the mortgage and played the fool. I'm sorry. We're both sorry." "No, you're not sorry. You're scared. There's a difference." I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. "I have 17 more recordings, James. Conversations between you and Sabrina about your plans, your opinions of me, your discussions about my personal life. Some of them are quite creative in their cruelty." "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to disappear. I want you to stay away from Sabrina, stay away from me, and hope that I don't decide to share the rest of these recordings with your wife." "My wife? Oh, you thought I didn't know about her? The pharmaceutical executive who travels for work? The one who has no idea her husband has been having an affair for 2 years?" James staggered backward like I'd struck him. "You wouldn't." "I haven't decided yet. But I'll tell you what. If I hear that you've contacted Sabrina, if I see you anywhere near my neighborhood, if you so much as drive past my house, then your wife gets a very interesting care package of photos and recordings. This is extortion. This is consequences. You wanted to play games with people's lives? Congratulations, you're still playing." I walked away, leaving him standing in the parking lot with the weight of his choices finally settling on his shoulders. That evening, Sabrina showed up at Dennis's bar. I was having dinner with Celeste when she stormed through the door, her hair disheveled and her makeup smeared from crying. "You destroyed my life," she screamed, loud enough for the entire bar to hear. Dennis moved toward the phone, probably ready to call the police, but I waved him off. This confrontation had been inevitable. "I didn't destroy anything, Sabrina. I just stopped pretending. The restraining order, the divorce papers, getting me arrested. This is insane. You slashed my tires in front of security cameras after I filed a restraining order. That's not insane. That's just stupid." She looked around the bar, probably expecting sympathy from the crowd. Instead, she found curious stares and whispered conversations. Word traveled fast in our social circle. "Everyone thinks I'm some kind of monster," she said, her voice breaking. "Everyone thinks you're exactly what you are, a woman who spent 2 years lying to her husband while planning to abandon him for a richer man." It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I have recordings, Sabrina. Hours of them. You and Tasha, you and James, you and Pamela, all discussing how pathetic and mediocre I am while you planned your upgrade. Celeste squeezed my hand under the table, a gesture of support that reminded me I wasn't alone anymore. "I loved you," Sabrina said, tears streaming down her face. "No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me, the reliable husband who paid the bills and asked no questions while you lived your double life. What about James? You ruined his career, his marriage." "James ruined his own career by sleeping with a married woman and documenting it. James ruined his own marriage by betraying his wife for 2 years. I just made sure the truth came to light." She stood there, swaying slightly, probably from the wine she'd been drinking before she arrived. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to sign the divorce papers. I want you to stop vandalizing my property. And I want you to understand that your actions have consequences." And then what? You get everything and I get nothing? You get exactly what you plan to leave me with. Nothing. The only difference is the timeline. She looked around the bar one more time, perhaps hoping for a different ending to this conversation. When she realized none was coming, she walked out without another word. That was hard to watch, Celeste said quietly. She made her choices. I'm just making sure she lives with them. Dennis brought over another round of drinks. So, what happens now? Now we wait for the divorce to finalize, and I start figuring out what comes next. And Sabrina? Sabrina gets to learn what it feels like to be average. 3 weeks later, everything came to a head on a Thursday night that started quietly and ended with sirens. I was in my new apartment, a clean, modern space that felt more like home than the house I'd shared with Sabrina ever had. Celeste was making dinner while I reviewed the final divorce papers that would be signed the next morning. It's really over, she said, reading over my shoulder. Almost. Just the signatures tomorrow, and then it's official. That's when the pounding started on my door. Not knocking, pounding, like someone was trying to break it down. Seth, Sabrina's voice shrill and desperate. Open this door. I know she's in there. I looked through the peephole and saw her swaying in the hallway, clearly intoxicated, with James standing behind her, looking equally unstable. Call security, I told Celeste, but she was already dialing. Seth, Sabrina screamed again. You think you can just replace me? You think you can destroy our lives and walk away? The police are on their way, Celeste said quietly. Good. Let them handle this. But Sabrina had other plans. I heard the sound of breaking glass. She'd thrown something at my hallway window. Then James was shouting, his voice carrying through the thin apartment walls. You ruined everything. My job, my marriage, my life. You ruined your own life, I called back through the door. I just documented it. More breaking glass. They were destroying property in full view of security cameras, probably adding several more charges to their already impressive legal troubles. The elevator dinged, and I heard new voices, security guards by the sound of it. Ma'am, sir, you need to come with us. Get your hands off me, Sabrina shrieked. He's the criminal. He's the one who... Ma'am, you're intoxicated. You're violating a restraining order, and you've destroyed property. You need to come with us now. I opened the door just as the security guards were escorting them toward the elevator. Sabrina saw me and lunged forward, breaking free from the guard's grip. You think you've won? She screamed, her face twisted with rage. You think you're better than me now? I think I'm free of you, I replied calmly, and that's all I ever wanted. James tried to push past the second security guard, his executive composure completely gone. This isn't over. You can't just destroy people's lives and walk away. I didn't destroy anything. You both did that yourselves. I just made sure everyone could see it. The police arrived as the elevator doors were closing. Within minutes, my hallway was full of officers taking statements and documenting the damage. Broken glass, scratched walls, and security footage of the entire incident. Domestic dispute? The lead officer asked. Ex-wife and her boyfriend violating a restraining order, I explained. There should be an active file. We'll need your statement and we'll need to speak with the witness. Celeste gave her account of events while I provided the background. The divorce proceedings, the restraining order, the previous incidents of harassment and property destruction. They'll be charged with multiple violations, the officer informed me. A restraining order violation, public intoxication, property destruction, disturbing the peace. This should be enough to keep them away from you permanently. Officer, I just want this resolved. I'm not looking for revenge. I just want them to leave me alone. Understood. We'll make sure they get the message. After the police left, Celeste and I sat on my couch, the adrenaline slowly wearing off. So that's it? She asked. It's really over? It's really over. Tomorrow I sign papers that officially end 8 years of marriage to a woman who never actually existed. The woman I thought I married was just a performance. And what about the real Seth? What does he want now? I looked around my apartment. Clean, honest, mine. No pretense, no performance, no lies. The real Seth wants to build something authentic with someone who actually likes him for who he is, not who she wants him to become. That sounds like a good plan. It is a good plan. My phone buzzed with a text from Dennis. Heard about tonight, you okay? I typed back, better than okay, finally free. And for the first time in years, that was completely true. The next morning, I signed the divorce papers in my lawyer's office. Sabrina wasn't there. She was in jail, waiting for her arraignment on the charges from the night before. James had been released on bail, but his lawyer advised him to stay far away from anything connected to me. She gets nothing? Attorney Williams asked, reviewing the final settlement. She gets exactly what she planned to leave me with. Nothing. The house, the savings, the investments, all mine. She can start over with whatever she managed to hide in those secret accounts. And you're satisfied with this outcome? I thought about the question. Was I satisfied? Sabrina had lost her marriage, her home, her social standing, and her future with James. James had lost his job, his wife, and his reputation. Both of them were facing legal consequences that would follow them for years. I'm satisfied that the truth came out. I'm satisfied that their actions had consequences, and I'm satisfied that I'm free to build a life with someone who actually values me. Then congratulations, Mr. Morrison. You're officially divorced. I walked out of that office and into the rest of my life, leaving 8 years of lies and manipulation behind me. Sabrina had called me average, mediocre, a placeholder. She was wrong about all of it. I was never average. I was just waiting for the right moment to prove it.